Thanks everyone for coming. I didn't put my name or title on here, so that's 2 strikes against me. Brian Gordon, I'm in SOEHS, specifically sport management, and the title of my presentation is Brand Retroness. So for those of you that have seen me present before, a lot of my research looks at retro marketing in sport. So how sport teams utilize the past in their marketing. We see this in advertisements, we see this in venue, we see this in game day promotions, we see this with merchandise. But what I want to focus on today is how they utilize it in their primary logo. So as an example, one of KU's many logos is the Warhawk from 1941. A lot of teams have always kept their same logo over time, have brought back elements of old logos, and in some cases, they've just completely made up fake logos that look retro, and it's like, this is what our logo would look like if it was the 1950s. So I started doing this research in 2017, and I had a basic question that I've never answered, that I'm trying to answer with this work, which is, what makes something retro? When you look at that Warhawk, what is it that fans think of that say, this is why it's retro? So I started with that basic question. What makes a primary logo retro? The outcome of this project, hopefully, is developing a measurement scale that measures logo retroness, okay? So how did I do this, or how are we doing this? We started with the context of the NBA for a variety of reasons, mainly because of their utilization of primary logos and the prevalence of retro logos. So we did a survey of 300 NBA fans, and we had them rate from 1 to 7 every single logo, primary logo in the NBA, 1 being modern, 7 being retro, okay? And then after that, they had to tell us in an open-ended box, why? Why did you rate it this way, okay? And so based off that, we calculated the 10 most retro NBA logos. We also calculated the 10 most modern NBA logos. But for the purpose of our study, we were really interested in those 10 retro logos, and more importantly, the responses as to why they viewed them as retro. 1,100 responses we had. We coded them with 2 other researchers. And basically what we were looking at is, can we construct some measurement items for our measurement scale off of this? The result was 24 items that we constructed based on the most common recurring things they were saying about why it was retro. And then we put all those 24 items into a survey. We did a survey where basically we gave the respondents a prompt and a retro logo, and they basically had to say, I believe that this logo is retro because, and then we had our 24 items, and they had to rate it from strongly disagree to agree. We did that at a large Midwestern R1 university, and we maybe used the Warhawk logo, but I'm not supposed to say that. So what did we find? What we were looking for is, are there different categories that we can put these items in? So we ran an exploratory factor analysis to categorize these items into different categories. The first category was called timeless icons. So really quickly, a lot of respondents said it looks classic, it's timeless, it's never changed over time. That's why they thought it was retro. So the Chicago Bulls would be an example. They've never changed their logo over their entire team history, just as an example of timeless icons. The second one, we considered low fidelity aesthetics, and a lot of them focused on the cartoonish nature of the logo, and also that it used old graphics. So the Boston Celtics logo is a good example for that category. The third one was called legacy identity, and a lot of people said, I think this is retro because it reminds me of a former team, era, or player. So the Showtime Lakers of the 80s came up a lot when they saw the Lakers logo. So just as an example of kind of that legacy identity. And then the fourth example, we called it retro heritage. We're still working on this. This logo looks like my 8-year-old made it with clip art. It's absolutely embarrassing that a multi-million-dollar franchise would put a logo out like this, But our respondents said this looks retro because it's so basic, it's so understated, it's so raw and crude that they saw it as retro, which was a surprise to us. But that was kind of the fourth category, is that kind of basic nature of the retro logo. So what we're going to do with this, we're going to take another sample and try and confirm that these 4 factors make sense and there's not too strong of a relationship between them. And then we're going to start using this when teams come up with new logos or different logos, and we can measure not only how retro is it, but maybe what categories fit the best for these primary logos. Thank you. Did I learn anything about the war? I think I learned that students find it the best of all the old logos that KU has. Well, it's Rick, we're at war. It's 1941. We're trying to portray that, resilience and grit. Is how I would say it. Yes?
Yeah, I'm assuming retro was good, but I'm wondering, for some teams, I grew up in Virginia, so was the Washington Redskins. Now what?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Cleveland Indians, Washington Redskins, my hometown Fighting Illini of Illinois. Yeah, I mean, you rather have to pivot away from that, which they've done, because what can you do with it? But also it's too controversial to bring it back. So one thing you could do is fake retro, called faux back. So you could create something that ties into maybe the city identity and bring back a logo that might not be exactly at the team history. You can do it that way. So like the Tampa Bay Rays with baseball did that. They created a whole uniform and logo, and it was basically like, what would our team look like if it existed in the 70s? And that was a huge hit. So that's one thing that teams can do when they really cannot capitalize on their past because of the racist logos that they had in the past. That's one option available.
That's the one question.
Yes.
Based on your research, what do you recommend? The logo should remain the same from the beginning, or has to change every 10 years to get more fun?
Yeah, I think it depends on the team. It depends on the. Winston asked, should logos remain the same over time, or should they change every so many years? I really think it depends on the situation. If you have a timeless, iconic logo like the Bulls or the Lakers, that has so much equity that I think you would be crazy to change that primary logo. Maybe if your organization does not have a lot of success currently, what I've seen like with the Toronto Maple Leafs, sorry if there's any Maple Leafs fans in here, they changed their logo a couple of years ago, and they tapped into a previous generation of their logo that also tied into when they had a lot of team success. So the answer is, depends.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
As a counterpoint, who has a modern logo?
Who has, right here. So the most modern, in our research, the most modern logo was the Charlotte Hornets, followed by the Toronto Raptors, the Memphis Grizzlies, Houston Rockets, New Orleans Pelicans, Minnesota Timberwolves, and Cleveland Cavaliers. One interesting thing, Minnesota thought when they brought their new logo out that they were tapping into the past. Our research shows it's actually viewed as very modern, so they failed in that regard. Anyway.
You may not know this, but about 15 years ago, we had a marketing team that decided that the Jayhawk was a silly cartoon, and we should have a different logo. We weren't allowed to use them on our business cards or anything, that kind of thing.
I was going to say, if they didn't do it, I would.